Well, it's Friday, and we still have one, two, three weather hazards that will impact your holiday weekend. We'll have all the details, and we'll take a peek down the road to see what the long range has in store. Plus, we'll test your weather IQ. So grab a cup of coffee and settle in. A special end of the week edition of Cold Rain's Weather World's coming at you right now. Happy Friday to you, friends. Jason Pritchard here with you on this special day that the Lord has made, and He has made a world for us to enjoy and weather for us to talk about, and that's what we do here at Cold Rain's Weather World. We enjoy the weather. That's why we come here, and I talk about it, and you listen to me talk about it, hopefully, and you learn something, and it helps you understand the weather over the coming days. We find ourselves at the end of another work week, heading into a holiday weekend, and we have some weather hazards that are out there that will impact some of us as we go through our weekend, and we're going to get into that. But we always start our show with the Weather IQ question to test your Weather IQ knowledge. And today's Weather IQ question is brought to you by Offline Mobility. If you're tired of people talking your ear off, Offline Mobility has the answer for you for a cost that you simply can't afford to pass up or just afford at all. Our spotty network drops more calls than any other carrier on the market. So for fast, convenient connections on the go, try someone else. For all other mobile needs, check out Offline Mobility, where prices are high and connections are low. Thank you, Offline Mobility, for the sponsorship. If you all have any sponsor ideas, please let me know in the comments section. Now, here is our Weather IQ question for the day. We're going to keep with our theme of drought-related questions, and this should be a fairly easy one after maybe a hard one in the last couple of days or so. What major drought and dust storm disaster occurred in the U.S. during the 1930s? The Great Freeze, the Dust Bowl, the Mississippi Flood, or the blackout blizzards? I don't know what a blackout blizzard is, but we'll go ahead and eliminate that one and let you have a freebie today, okay? So there you go, folks. The 1930s. What was it that happened in the 1930s, okay? And the 1930s are going to come back up here in a little bit anyway. By the way, a little teaser. All right, stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back, just like that. That's the fun thing that we can do from our YouTube studio here at home. All right, so we've got a lot of weather to get into today, and we're going to get into weather mode here and go. All right, so we're going to start with a satellite image, and check this out. Nor'easter in late May. Boom, there it is right there. You can see it spinning up here in the northeast. Counterclockwise circulation. A lot of clouds up here. Rain and snow falling out from under those clouds there. A couple of thunderstorms down here with this cloud pattern down in Texas, this big clump of clouds down here, and then some other clouds flying in across the high plains there, and another system looks like it's set to work into the west coast. Now, if we look at our radar imagery, oh boy, I've got to resize this so we can see it. I didn't do this properly before. There it is. Now we can get it all. Everybody can see what's going on here. A little bit of shower activity working into Montana. Showers over South Dakota and into Nebraska with a couple of rumbles of thunder. There's that complex dying out in South Texas. But look up here. Oh boy, we've got plenty of rain, wind, especially along the coast. Heavy rain up here in just outside of Maine, just east of Maine. But we've got rain and snow falling up in the White Mountains and the Green Mountains, and we're seeing some accumulation up there, but not a lot. But still, this is impressive to have a nor'easter here in late May. As we move on ahead and take a look at our hazards map, not much out there. Some frost advisories up in Minnesota and Wisconsin. If you got any planning concerns out there, just be aware of that. Red flag warnings here in Utah and western Colorado, where we can see winds gusting near 40 miles per hour. Low dew points out there, so don't burn anything. And flash flood watches have finally been issued for the Four Corners region between Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We're going to see round after round after round of heavy rain with thunderstorms over the next few days. This extends all the way through the holiday weekend. So you guys are in for a treat out there if you like rain. If you don't, just it's potentially could be a serious situation with some flash flooding. I don't mean to make light of it, but pay attention as you go through the weekend. You're going to really rack up the rainfall totals, maybe as much as 8 inches or more in spots. So looking at what's happening this afternoon, Here's our heavy rain threat for today. Severe weather threat back in the cards. We're going to see severe weather every single day over the next 5 or 6 days or so, as we have a general flow pattern that looks something like this. Got a little ridging out here, but just flow across the south and southeast. And with those upper level winds and the evacuation of air that occurs in the upper levels, we're going to see broad lift working on an unstable air mass, and we can kind of see what's going on. We've got a couple little waves of low pressure, a frontal zone hanging out across the coast, the Gulf Coast down here, extending from this nor'easter up here all the way in off the coast in New England. Still got our upper level low back over the Great Lakes, but plenty of rain to be had over the next day or so up in New England with snow, general shower and thunderstorm activity from the high plains all the way down into the lower Mississippi Valley, with severe weather back in Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, where you could find hail and wind today. So that is the general surface map and what we can expect throughout the day. Temperature-wise, let's bring this down here and go to another display. Let's get down here to where we can actually see what's going on with our temps. So here's our temperature map today. Should have all of this adjusted before we come in here, but this is a little behind the look at what we do at Cold Rain's Weather World, folks. Sometimes we just, change course on the fly. But temperatures today below normal across much of the northeast and into the southeast, above normal or near normal really through the middle of the country, and then above toward the south, where we find plenty of 90s down in starting in South Georgia all the way through South Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, up into Texas, and then to the desert Southwest. We'll even see some hundreds in some of those far south and southwestern areas, but 50s and 60s across the north, and 40s and even 30s in the mountains up here, where they're seeing a little bit of snow up in New England. So that's your high temperature map for today. If we take a look here and look at exactly what's going on. So this is hazard number one, this nor'easter that's winding up along the coast. 996 millibar low. You can see snow up here in the higher peaks in the mountains. And as we go on through time, plenty of rain throughout the course of Friday afternoon, Friday evening, into the overnight hours. That low pressure will start to fill in a little bit, pull on out to the north into the east, leaving some wraparound showers as we get through the day on Saturday into Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. Still maybe up here in Maine, a couple of wraparound showers to be had on Sunday, but we're really looking at the bulk of the rain moving through today into the overnight hours into early Saturday for New England. And then by the time we get into Monday, it should be, for the bulk of New England, should be a nice day up here in the Northeast. So we've got rain as a concern, plenty of rain, maybe an inch to half an inch, all the way up to an inch and a half in spots. You can see kind of what the European model is showing here, all the way back from New York. This is what is left to fall from the 6Z run that occurred, I guess, starting in the wee hours of the overnight last night, but we could still see as much as, a half an inch up to an inch, potentially up in Maine, where the rain will be a little bit heavier, a little bit closer to the coast here. We're going to see more rainfall up here. And winds could be an issue too. Gusty winds, gusting into the 20s all up through the northeast here, especially along the coastal sections, where we could see gusts to 40 miles per hour, maybe even a little bit higher than that at times as we go through. Check this out. So we'll see gusting to 40s along the coast, close to 50 at times potentially. And then as that system weakens a little bit, we start to see those winds diminish. It pulls away, and then we're just left with general westerly winds behind. So snowfall totals, not looking all that impressive. Those big GFS totals from the other day, I told you it was hitting the good stuff early as it got into its holiday mode. But in any event, the European model is more realistic, and it's agreed with most of the ensembles as well. And so 1 to 2 inches up here in the mountains, maybe a couple of more, a little bit more in spots, but generally speaking, just in the higher elevations is where we're seeing the snow. And I've seen some pictures on Twitter already with some falling snow up there. So interesting times, for late May, and that's what makes the weather interesting. Things happen at strange times. And so, we always stay on top of it when we can, and we often can here at Cold Rain's Weather World. So now the second threat is severe weather. As I said, we're going to have severe weather in the picture over the next few days. If we take a look at our thunderstorm fuel, gas for thunderstorms, we call it, thunderstorm fuel ramping up this afternoon over Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, into Louisiana, Arkansas. So we see that fuel as we go on into Saturday, just same areas. It just sort of sits there and persists. We even start to see some fairly high instability here on Saturday, so we could really start to see some large hail with lapse rates pretty steep in the mid levels and some general shear that's going across. So we could see a little bit more in the way of tornadoes as we get into tomorrow, with very large hail possible in some of these areas. And we'll see what the SPC outlines in a minute. But I wanted to show you the thunderstorm fuel over the next few days. This CAPE, convective available potential energy. Thunderstorms turn the potential energy into kinetic energy in the form of wind, rain, and hail and tornadoes sometimes. So that's what we've got going on here. It persists on into Monday. Look, so we've got general instability just persisting with dew points and moisture being advected in from the Gulf of cold rain. That's what it is. It's the Gulf of cold rain. We renamed that a long time ago. And so as we get into Monday afternoon, into the evening, Monday, a little bit less in the way of CAPE, but we still have plenty of it down here in some of these southern areas. So we're going to watch for thunderstorms to form and make use of some of that CAPE. Taking a look at the SPC. So this is for this afternoon. Slight risk from Nebraska all the way through Kansas and into Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City. Marginal risk surrounding that down into southwest Texas, and even a little marginal risk down here in Florida, where we could see a couple of wind gusts and some hail. A little cooler air in the upper atmosphere could produce that. Not a huge tornado threat. You would always have to take tornado threats seriously and severe weather threats seriously, because tornadoes can form, of course. Wind is the higher threat. Hail is the higher threat, because we could see some of these supercells develop initially with vigorous updrafts produce large hail the size of baseball. So we're going to pay attention here, particularly in far northeastern Colorado, western Kansas, and then just down here in the north central tip here of Oklahoma. So pay attention in those areas tomorrow. So Saturday, we're looking at that threat, the center of it shifting east into Oklahoma, and just a tip here of Missouri and Arkansas. Big marginal risk. We might see some adjustments to this as we go through the overnight hours tonight. But again, tornado threat a little bit more where we saw that big CAPE earlier. Wind and of course hail is possible there, with very large hail again in the picture. We see our hatched. When we see the hatched area, that means significant severe weather is possible. So pay attention tomorrow. Sunday, same area is getting hit, with a little more of a chance down in the south, where we see some of these little systems. What's kind of kicking this off? We've got ridging in the upper atmosphere, but we've got little systems rolling through in the mid levels, along with general wind energy there. These little systems sort of act on the instability and help to create clusters of showers and thunderstorms. And that's what we're seeing over the next few days. That's why we have a severe weather threat, warm temperatures, moisture around, and we've got plenty of instability to work with. So these little systems kind of work on that. And that's what happens in the spring and the summer. And so we could see some severe weather start to extend down here into the deep south as well as we go on into Sunday. And then Monday, still have a severe weather threat over Texas. So that's what's going on. And then after Monday, there's probably going to be more severe weather in the form of, just localized events, not anything massive and widespread. We're not seeing any of these big systems work in that create these big, widespread severe weather tornado outbreak kind of things. So we're not really looking at that, but this is more of a, slight risk kind of pattern that we're in. We'll see that from a day-to-day standpoint. Now, Drought Monitor is released, I believe, every Thursday, and the last threat that we're going to talk about is the excessive rainfall threat. So we're going to see if any of these drought conditions down here, particularly in southwest Texas, into the desert southwest, up into the mid-plains, is going to, and down in Florida too, really, are we going to see any relief over the next few days? So that's what the Drought Monitor looks like. Well, we've got a slight risk of excessive rain centered right in that area we talked about before, this little Four Corners region of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. This is today. Tomorrow, see that same general area highlighted for a slight risk. But then look what happens. The same area expands a bit, but now we have a marginal risk as we get on into Sunday, okay? And then Monday, everything kind of shifts east. So we're starting to see that pattern sort of shift east a little bit. And then day 5, way out here on Tuesday, just a marginal risk. But we'll see how that shakes out as we go on through time. But look at this. Wow. Look at all of this rain that is going to fall. These thunderstorms are going to have a lot of moisture to work with. We are not going to look at precipitable water today, but we are going to look at the QPF presentation from the Weather Prediction Center. This is accumulated total over the next 7 days here. So we're looking Friday to Friday. So that's what we're looking at. Look at this big area, multiple inches of rain, these deeper oranges. We're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain up in here in that little Four Corners region we're talking about. So these thunderstorms are just going to work in. The little systems are going to trek along like this in the flow and really create clusters of showers and thunderstorms. And they're going to train over the same areas over multiple days. That's just the way the flow pattern in the atmosphere is set up. So you guys really need to pay attention over the next couple of days when we're talking about flash flooding, because those things can happen quickly. Rivers can rise quickly. Don't cross it. You know the story. Don't cross a flooded roadway. Turn around. Don't drown. Have a way, ways to receive weather alerts. So that's our flooding threat. Now, if we take a look here at what's going on over the next, just look at the surface map over the next couple of days. Let me get on my pivotal weather display here. There we can see it, and without all the extraneous details surrounding it. Got a little ad going on at the bottom there. Somebody wearing, needs some jeans or something. You can get some clothes. Oh, that's Mint Mobile. Okay. Anyway, going on through the afternoon today. Look at this. So here, let's go back. Here's the afternoon. All right. So Friday afternoon. Thunderstorms breaking out, rain over here in Oklahoma, a little supercell action coming back into Kansas, rain here associated in the northeast with that system up there. And then we're going through Saturday, you can see that rain continuing into the overnight hours Friday, into the Saturday morning hours over the southern sections of Missouri, northern Arkansas into Tennessee, rain up in the northeast, rain moving into the high plains again. As we get on into Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, again, more showers and thunderstorms in the overnight areas. And you can see those same areas kind of getting hit as we go on through. Little waves coming in and just providing plenty of lift, plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity here Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. We got thunderstorms and showers breaking out all over the place here. Look at this. Let me go back. Thunderstorms up here in the plains, thunderstorms in the southern plains, thunderstorms through the southeast. Look here at what we've got going on here in, this is Sunday evening. Here, let's go back because I want to show you this real quick. This thing jumps around. This is why I don't like Pivotal. Maybe I don't use it right. But in any event, look, we've got Sunday morning, okay? Indianapolis, you're looking pretty good here on the European. The GFS actually has some showers working in later on in the day. Race starts, I think, at 12 Eastern time, and so we get in the afternoon. Indianapolis looks clear, but look what's happening Sunday evening for that evening race. The Coca-Cola 600 down here in North Carolina in Charlotte. Got some showers working into the picture, so we could see a wet time of it down here, maybe have some issues with the race, but the European keeps it high and dry up here in Indianapolis. So looking pretty good there as we go on into Sunday evening, into Sunday night, Monday morning, showers and plenty of them, thunderstorms, probably seeing some mesoscale complexes move through that are providing some wind. But anyway, heavy rain through the south. And as we go on into Monday afternoon and evening, just continue in the plains in the south is where we're finding the bulk of the rain shower activity and thunderstorms contributing to all of the flooding that we have. So pay attention for your Indy 500. Looks like you're going to be good up there. Charlotte, I'm a little bit more concerned about as we're seeing data continue to show showers potentially there. Temperatures as we go through the weekend, your weekend holiday forecast for temperatures looks like this. Chilly up in the northeast to start, warming up in the Midwest, a little bit cooler behind a little area of low pressure that's forming out here, clouds and showers. And then back in the western portion of the country, we're seeing a little bit of ridging. And then, of course, 90s, 80s, and 90s across the deep south here into Texas, where we're finding hundreds again. Sunday, very much the same. Warming up slightly in the northeast, still chilly up there, 60s and 70s through the plains, maybe 50s back here in the central plains, but across the north, and then 80s making it all the way up to the Canadian border out west, 80s and 90s as we get into Monday. 80s and 90s continuing across the south, so very warm, below normal up here over much of the eastern section of the country, with the exception of the northeast, and below normal out here in the plains, where we find 50s again, 60s and 70s out west. So that is our temperature forecast for our holiday weekend. Looking down the road, so if we get on here and take a look at our height anomaly map, check this out. So this is for what day are we looking at here? So this is for Sunday afternoon into Monday. Let's roll this on ahead till we get to Tuesday morning. Okay, so this is Tuesday morning. Big blocking over Canada. That slows the flow down and keeps it a little bit, and you can see this kind of if you can call this an upper low, it's not much of one, but anyway, there's troughing in the middle of the country that slides east as we go through time. You can see that troughing. There's still yellow color, so you would imply that there's warm conditions here, but this is actually going to be a little bit below normal, above normal under these big bright orange colors out here. But again, no big systems moving into the western part of the country. We have a general big ridge going up in western Canada, troughing in the east as we get on in toward next weekend. So we could see a little bit of unsettled weather in the east toward next weekend, but definitely a signal for below normal temperatures in the east and above out west. And the 6 to 10 day probabilities sort of bear that out with below normal temperatures across much of the south and east, at least the signal for that, with the exception of Florida, above up in Maine, and above with that big ridge out west. Alaska, I said it right this time. Alaska, below normal. Hawaii, above normal. And then precipitation above across the south. And look, we may find some relief as we get on down the road here in South Texas and the desert Southwest, below over the Great Lakes, Alaska and Hawaii, both above normal. Our 4 volcanoes, let's see here what we've got going on. Spur, Great Sitkin, Kilauea, and Ahi. Those are the ones we're watching. No change on any of those, so not going to stay on this page for very long, are we? Nope. We're right off onto the earthquakes page. A little bit of an earthquake action up here. So what is this? A 3.8 in southern Idaho. Anybody feel that up there? It's got a depth of 12 kilometers, so not all that deep really. But other than that, not much else going on. Kind of quiet tectonically, and kind of quiet from a solar standpoint too. There's the sun, nothing going on there. Little coronal hole action that's been facing us, that's rotating away. Another one is eventually going to rotate around. I think it's a little bit bigger. Some sunspots on the sun, but they're not really producing anything. See, here's all of the sunspots kind of turning toward us. You got to have complex magnetism with these sunspots. You can't have negative here and positive here. That's not going to work if you are interested in solar flaring, which we don't really care much for solar flaring because that doesn't help us. It hurts the magnetic field, and it energizes things, and you get to see sort of excites the magnetic field. You get these auroras, but we're not really seeing a high chance of aurora, so nothing much going on there. And folks, that is our weather update for your holiday weekend, and I hope that has helped you understand what to look out for wherever you are. Now we're going to answer today's Weather IQ question. And I can't believe it, but we may be doing all of this in one segment. Wow. All right. So remember what the question was. It was, what major drought and dust storm occurred during the U.S. in the 1930s? Okay, that was in the Great Depression era, and sort of the question sort of gives it away, right? The Great Freeze, the Dust Bowl, the Mississippi Flood, or the Blackout Blizzards. Well, I think we can all agree that it was the Dust Bowl. That was the dust storm that occurred during the 1930s, and it was a series of dust storms that actually swept across the plains and made a lot of crops fail. There was, hunger and all of that stuff, and a lot of that contributed to the Great Depression. So that was what was going on there. Also, I told you we were going to come back to the 30s again. One of the most famous, during the Great Depression, there was a lot of criminal activity that gave birth to the great American gangsters and all of the people that you probably heard of, like John Dillinger and Babyface Nelson and Bonnie and Clyde. Well, today, back in 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were ambushed by the authorities in Louisiana and shot to death and killed after a 2-year crime spree where they robbed banks, killed a lot of people, and captivated America during the Great Depression. You probably don't know this because most of you weren't alive then, but during that time, there was this sort of anti-government, anti-big bank kind of mentality going on, and these gangsters came out of that era, and they became sort of anti-heroes to a lot of the people, and Bonnie and Clyde were the ones that really captivated because of their romance, and they were evading the authorities for so long. They sort of came out of that as a fascination across the country. And so people were very, very fascinated by them. And anyway, they met their demise in 1934 in a Louisiana parish. And now you know about American gangsters, and now you know the weather. And as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you that other channels run 24/7, but we got you covered 14 right here at Cold Rain's Weather World. We'll have a happy Memorial Day weekend, folks, and I'll see you back soon.